Welcome to our Professional Development Series with the National Dissemination Center for Career and Technical Education. On behalf of the Center, my name is Sheila Thompson, and I'd like to welcome you to our 7th session in our Professional Development Series, where we will be hearing from Dr. Brenda, Stallion, Barkley on learning styles and the impact on teaching. We are very fortunate to have a graduate of our Ohio State University Comprehensive Vocational Education Program here with us today. Dr. Barkley has taught in the public school system. She has worked with the Ohio Department of Education as an educational consultant in the Division of Professional Development. She has served 10 years and as a university professor, and she now serves as an education and corporate associate with Performance Learning Systems Incorporated. She is here today to share with us her insights on learning styles and their impact on teaching. So those of you who are involved in career and technical education, I'm sure that you will find this workshop today to be very enlightening, very interactive, and fun, not only for yourself, but for the students that you serve. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Barkley.
If you picked up a blue copy of a learning style inventory, and it looks like this, and it's for educators. If I have anyone in the audience that is not an educator, you're a non-educator, we have a version for the workplace. So let's make sure everybody has the blue copy if you're in the teaching profession, education profession, and the green copy if you're in the workforce. Okay? Okay, we need one up here, Sheila. An educator version? Okay. Well, we're going to jump right into this and start by taking the instrument, and let me give you some quick directions. This instrument is has been used all around the United States with teachers, whether it's academic, vocational teachers, and we have just had a really nice project, and I mention this because we're in Ohio, at Ashtabula Vocational Technical Center, and where they have given this inventory to the teachers, the education inventory to all the teachers, and then they have given the student version to the students in the vocational center. So there are student versions of this, grades 3 through 6 and 7 through 12, and then the one you're taking today is the educated version. So when you open it up, you will see that you find 2 pages of stickers. You didn't know we were going to stick in all this stuff with all this color. We'll have fun. And on the first page it says, while working I appreciate, and I prefer work-related communication to be. Now I like to just fold that in half down the black line so that I'm keeping those 2 questions separate. And then fold the second page down so I can keep that separate. And then you look under the question, while working I appreciate, and you answer that by peeling and sticking 8 stickers from this side. Then you turn it over. I prefer work-related communication to be, and you peel and stick 8 from this side. And you're going to put them right down there in the columns underneath that question. And then you're going to continue on with the next 2. At work I enjoy, and at work it is important for me to avoid my boss. No, whatever. Whoever's there. Now, as soon as you take and answer all of the questions, you're going to have this completely filled up with 32 stickers. And when you're finished, what you want to do, it'll look something like this. You want to begin to count colors. So now you're going to go over, you don't pay any attention to the colors when you first look at it. You just read the phrases and peel and stick. Then when you finish and you have it completely covered, then you want to go and count colors. So you want to start with purple, which is kinesthetic, and you count all the purples all the way across those 32 stickers. Size does not make any difference. It may be small, it may be a little bit larger, whatever. As long as it's the color purple, you know, pick that, count how many purples and put that number there. And then do the same thing with all the other colors all the way down. and you're going to find out that you're looking at 3 profiles in one. That's the uniqueness of this instrument. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. So let me give you 20 minutes, and the folks that are on the web are going to be taking this online as you're taking it here live. Okay, so let's take 20 minutes for this. Just kill dead time now and just... Doesn't show how many are on there.
It's been going up and down, so...
Okay. That's interesting.
If they're doing the test, they might actually stop it so they can do their test online.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Sometimes you have to bend it quite, just come up like this and pinch it. No. It wants to be ornery sometimes. You got the workplace version.
Well, I don't teach, I write.
You got the right one.
Okay, that's what I do.
I'm just curious. Got about 4 more minutes. Don't think too hard. Your first impulse is probably the best impulse. That little scorecard peels off. It may be a little difficult to peel off. If it is, don't worry about it. Just lay it down and count your colors and put the number beside it. If it's too difficult to peel the back off and stick it on there where it says for administrators use only. counting the colors now. All over the whole page. When you look at that purple one, just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so forth. Yeah. Yeah. You can almost stand back and see the green in you. Put your face into it. Critical thinker, abstract. You'll see there's two little hash marks out beside where it says abstract, concrete, global. Pay no attention to those right now. I'll tell you what to do with those in just a minute. Just use the same marks all the way down the page. Okay, we about finished. Everybody got their colors added up? Needed a minute or two? Okay. I could take a funny story while you're finishing it up. If you can talk, if you're auditory, you can still do this and hear people talk. But it is wonderful to be back in Columbus. I got off the plane. My plane was delayed this morning. I was supposed to leave at 8:30 and get here at 10:30. And the flight, as you well know, as you fly all the time, was delayed. So I called Barbara and said, Barbara, my flight's delayed. I'm not sure what time I'm going to be there. At any rate, I got here at about 1:20. And I noticed that since I haven't been back in 10 years, the airport has really changed a whole lot. So I just didn't know how to get to the rental car. I thought, now, some of this is still familiar, but you know, I don't remember Max and Irma's being here. I don't remember this being here. But it was, and then driving into Ohio State, and just it gives you chills to know that I worked here in that room back there in 1982. So I guess I'm telling them my age here. And I was really privileged to have some of the finest professors at Ohio State, Dr. Dewey Adams and Dr. Larry Miller and Dr. Nancy Zimfer as my major professors or on my advisory team. So it's kind of fun to come, not kind of fun, it's a lot of fun to come back. Columbus is second home to me, always will be. So. Okay, let's take a look at the interpretation just real quickly. What we've done is taken a look at 3 learning style profiles. And let's take a look at the very first one. In the very first one, down to the first gray line, you will see this is your sensory style. So the highest number is your number 1 preference. In other words, the way you take in information, the way you work, learn, and take in information. So whatever your highest number is, you're either kinesthetic, tactile, auditory, or visual. And the second one, abstract, concrete, global, sequential, the highest number there. Now what I want to do here is deal with those 2 little hash marks that are out beside that. Look at the A and the C, the abstract and concrete. Between those 2, whichever one is your highest number, put that in the little hash mark. So if A is higher than C, the A goes in the hash mark. If they're equal, both go in the hash mark. Just make another little hash mark. Okay, and the same thing with the concrete sequential. Whichever one, the global or sequential, is the highest, then you want to put that, either G or S, in the hash mark. This is the way you organize and perceive things. Some people organize things globally, some sequentially, and we'll get into all that in just a minute. But the A and the C is the way, is your form preference. Your first, the highest number then would be your number one preference. And the C and the G and S is the way you organize things. Now, the same thing with the personality type. This is based on the Myers-Briggs, and it's part of a modified version of the Hershey-Bates. And so you look at this, and the highest number is your personality preference, whether it's intuitive feeling, intuitive thinking, sensing judging, or sensing perceiver. So now what you've got are three profiles all in one. You've got your sensory profile, your organizational and perceptual profile, and your temperament or your personality profile. Some people call that. Okay, so let's just discuss at the bottom. You'll see there's some boxes across the bottom. And like I said, when we give this for teachers, K through 12, whatever, post-secondary, whatever that may be, it's really helpful when the teacher, and the whole point of this is to find out with the teacher the way they learn and the way they work and the way they communicate with each other. And your highest preference that you just found is the way you communicate with your colleagues and the way you communicate with your students most often in that dominant preference. So what we have to do is we want to rotate all of those learning styles, because in this room, not everyone is the same learning style. In the classroom out there, the students are all different. You've got diverse learning styles, and you have to meet all of those needs, and that's a tall task for teachers. You'll find that on this very first line, let's take a look at the sensory style then. The sensory style has to do with the KTVA, kinesthetic, tactile, visual, and auditory. And let's just take a look at each one of these. Kinesthetic means your large motor muscles. It means that you have to be moving around. Have you ever seen a student in the classroom whenever they're taking a test and it's time to get up maybe to bring the test to the class, and the kid starts walking toward the teacher like this, and all of a sudden he goes, "Oh yeah, I got it." And she goes, "Oh yeah, you looked at somebody's paper on the way up there," you know. But it's the walking, when you're physically walking, that brings the information to the brain. And so the kid wants to come back and should be able to, make a correction on the paper. So kinesthetic students have to be physically moving, physically engaged. I'll tell you a funny story. When I was taking my statistics and had to memorize all those formulas, and bear with me, you guys know this is true, and women know this is true. We had to memorize all those statistical formulas. I went to the swimming pool at OSU and swam laps and memorized. That's how I memorized those statistical formulas, because I'm highly kinesthetic. And there I am swimming, and I'm hoping I'm not going to drown before I get to the other end of it. And I'm going over in my head, getting ready for, the wonderful general exams, and that's the way I learn, kinesthetically. So I have to be physically moving. A tactile person learns best whenever they have personal experiences. They could share stories. If a teacher is teaching, they share some of the most wonderful professors and to share the most wonderful stories with students. And tactile people learn that way. It also has to do with the small motor movement. So you may see people that like to highlight or underline things, or just sit there and kind of doodle. Have you ever seen people just doodle, and they'll be talking on the phone and they'll doodle, and they got this glamorous geometric shape when they finish, or flowers or whatever. But they must be using small motor muscles in order for the brain to take in information. The third one has to do with visual, and we all know this. Visual people work best whenever they can see whatever they're doing. So anytime you present something in a visual mode, they must see it, they must watch it, they must view it in order to take it in. I'm driving down the road and somebody gives me directions I'm getting ready to drive down the road and someone gives me directions over the telephone, and it's auditory, unless I write the directions down. And Barbara did this for me, get off the airport, get on, 270, and I'm writing all this down, and I have this in front of me on my way, driving from the airport here. But if I had just listened to Barbara, I would not have remembered the directions. I have to write everything down and see it. Okay, the auditory, those people work best by hearing and speaking. As soon as you finish something, you must turn to your neighbor and discuss it. People who do that are highly auditory because in order to take the information in, they must share it with someone else. They must speak it out, they must hear it, they must discuss it. So that has to do with KTAV. Well, what we're going to do is if you'll turn in your handouts, you'll see this page on the very first page in your handout. It's a real quick KTAV learning style from Done and Done. And I want you to take just a minute to go through there, and what you do, and I don't want to give you the answers yet, so I just want to show you what that page looked like. It's on page 2, and it's called Learning Modalities, and what you do, there's 10 questions, and you just go across, starting with number 1, for example, it says, my emotions can often be determined from my, and then you check all that apply, any that apply. It may be just one, it may be more than one. But, you want to pick what you think stands out the most. And just do that. Just take 5 minutes, read those 10 questions real quickly, and make a check. And then we're going to take a look at that in terms of the kinesthetic, tactile, auditory, and visual again. Okay, enough time? All right, I don't want to go over all these, but what I want to do is give you the answers in terms of what they are, and right on top of the place that you were to check, the answers, facial expressions, that's visual, voice quality is auditory, and general body tone is kinesthetic tactile. So what I want you to do is add up all, how many visuals that you have, how many auditories, and how many KTs that you have. Looking at these, this will tell you which one, it applies to that. Look at your handout and look at the answers to the ones that you checked and add that number up and put it at the bottom where it says visual, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile. And this one, KT is together. Kinesthetic, tactile is together. And then we'll just take a look at one or two of these. Okay, I'm just going to look at number 4, 5, and 6, and just to go over those as an example. Number 4 says, when I'm angry, I usually. I'm highly kinesthetic tactual, so clench my fists and grasp something tightly and storm off. So it's whenever I am displaying kinesthetic tactual in terms of emotion, it's like, duck, because something's going to come flying across the room possibly, or, something's going to be dropped, or, it's a very much of a very physical, active kind of mode. And then the other choices are those people who are auditory, and quickly to let others know why I'm angry, because you're auditory, so you want to talk that out. And visual clams up and gives others the silent treatment. Okay. And I meant to ask before I go any further, how many kinesthetics did we have in the room from your inventory? How many Ks? Let's look around the room. Kinesthetic, tactual, okay, auditory, okay, more auditories. Visual, more visuals. Okay, just wondering how many you had on there. And number 5, when driving, I turn on the radio as soon as I enter the car. How many people do that? Auditories? Yeah. First thing you do is turn the radio on. Okay. Now, your visual people, they frequently check the rearview mirror because they want to check it all out. Okay. Women, sometimes we want to put lipstick on, and do that type of thing, or comb our hair. And watch the road carefully as you do that, of course. And the case T's, they can't get comfortable in the chair. They're moving it up, and they're moving it back, and they're moving it up, and they're moving it back. They're adjusting the steering wheel, and this type of thing. I got in the rental car that I was had rented at the airport, and, the first thing I had to do is play with the seat. Oh, it goes up, now it goes down, now it goes slides back and forth, and then the steering wheel, and then the rearview mirror, and all this stuff, because I'm a highly kinesthetic type of person. Now, I tell you one funny one with this one. My husband is highly auditory, and I am highly kinesthetic. Real difference in terms of style. And whenever he's driving, he has the radio on all the time. The radio is on all the time. And he has it up loud. And so I get in the car, maybe after he's been driving it, and I turn the ignition on, and what happens? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. All this blasting out of my face. And, and I can't stand it. It makes me angry. And a lot of times I don't listen to the radio at all when I'm driving, because I'm real visual too, so I kind of take in things as I'm going around, and driving. But his is highly auditory, and mine's highly kinesthetic. And so I get in there every time. This is what happens when I get in the car. Okay. Number 6, I consider myself, KT, a comfortable dresser, and V, a neat dresser, and a sensible dresser is auditory. Now you may wonder, what does a kinesthetic tactual comfortable dresser mean? You get out of bed in the morning, and you say to yourself, what am I going to be doing today? Well, I'm going to fly to Columbus, then I got to get a rental car, and then I have to drive on to Toledo, and then I got to fly to Florida. So what kind of clothes am I going to take? So I'm a highly kinesthetic person, so I'm going to say, what is the most comfortable? And I give it a little tug like this, and I go, yep, ready to go. Comfortable dresser. Feels good to me. Don't think about it. Auditory people. If you're auditory, have you noticed doing this? You roll out of bed in the morning, and you ask yourself, what should I wear today? And you go to the closet, and you talk to your clothes. Yeah, you literally have a conversation with your clothes. Well, should I wear this or should I wear that? And they begin to talk back to you after a while. They say, why don't you try me on? I haven't been out here. I haven't seen the light of day in a long time. So auditory people will do this. They have this conversation back and forth with your clothes. Now, my husband, being auditory, I don't know what happens because he's not visual. So he does a lot of talking to his clothes, but then I always have to say, does his socks match when he goes out? Because he's not visual at all. Okay. And this is a sensible dresser. It would be the auditory person. The visual person would be the neat dresser. Everything matches, shoes, everything. Okay, that's just a little, give you a backup on how you did with kinesthetic, tactual, auditory, and visual. Now we're going to do something in pairs. So what I'd like for you to do is pair up with someone and turn your chairs where you're facing each other, like an A and a B. So just in pairs, just turn your chairs where you're facing each other, and let's make sure that everybody has a pair. You got to be looking at each other. You got to be looking at each other. Anybody not have a pair? Do you need someone? Did we run out of somebody? They're looking at each other. Okay. Okay, can we get somebody? Okay, no, here we go. We got somebody from Jim. Now everybody has a pair. All right. All right. Okay. I know that you've heard of Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And has anybody ever had the chance to see Tony Robinson? Yeah, I'm going to get that opportunity. He is absolutely fantastic, and he does all of his work that he does in coaching people, to do better in life and do better in their jobs, have to do with neuro-linguistic programming. And what this is based on is a neuro-linguistic program. Neuro meaning brain, linguistic meaning language. So it's the way the brain takes a look at how the language, how we deal with the brain and the language goes together. So this is something that's really important for teachers in the classroom is to think about is whether they're kinesthetic, tactile, auditory, or visual. So sometimes the words we use, that, come out of the brain, the language we use that's connected to the brain is going to be naturally in our style. In other words, the verbs that we use are going to be kinesthetic, tactile, auditory, visual. So we'll do this little activity, and this is George. Let me introduce you to George up here. That is the extent of my artistic ability. And without giving you any clues, here's what I want you to do. I want you to draw a circle like that, just somewhere on a sheet of paper. Just a circle with just like that. And we're going to start with A first. A, decide who's A and who's B. And you're just doing this with each other. And person A, you are going to ask a question of person B. And what you're going to do, A, is you're going to watch where their eye movements go. Do they go up? Do they go down, side to side? Or do they just have this blank stare? Okay? Now, when you do that, you want to just make a little check. Do they go up? Do they go side to side? Like that's the ear or something there, There's some ears. Or do they go down? Now, if they stare, you just want to make a dot. If it's just a straight-on stare. And that's all I'm going to tell you about this and then we'll do it. Okay, I'm going to give you a real stupid question. Silly questions. Okay? Now, who's person A? Raise your hand. All right, ready to go? I'm going to give you the question, then you take my question and ask it of person B. You just ask the question again to person B and watch their eye movements. Note where they go. As soon as you finish the question, you must finish the question first. Okay? Must finish the question first. All right. First question. What is the sixth word in Mary Had a Little Lamb?
Okay. I know. There we go.
Okay, got it? All right, person B, it's your turn now. Here's a question you're going to ask person A, and you're going to record their eye movements. Describe 3 pairs of shoes in your closet. Okay? Enough time? Go back to person A. Person A, describe your favorite vacation. Describe your favorite vacation. Wish you were on right now. Right after you ask the question, you're supposed to watch their eye movements as they talk to you. Right. Exactly. Yes. And as they answer the question, you watch where their eyes go. As they answer the question, you watch where their eyes go. Try it again. You can try it again. Okay. What? Okay, here's one related to vocational ed. I put a vocational question in here. Now we're going back to whose turn is it? Person B? All right, person B. Now again, you ask the question. As the person's answering it, you're recording their eye movements. So wait till you finish with the question and they start answering it, and then you check the eye movement. All right. What are your feelings about the impact of technology on vocational education programs?
There you go, answer.
Okay, now let's take a look at what we did. Based on what the research says on neuro-linguistic programming is that when the eyes move upward, when the person's answering the question, they're thinking about this, they are actually visualizing. So when people look up, it's a visual. They're visualizing the shoes in their closet. They're visualizing that impact on technology and vocational education, and how I just went to a national conversation last week in Pennsylvania and found out that this futurist that spoke said in the year 2010 that we will not recognize any of the jobs as they are now, will not be recognizable. And schools will not be recognizable as we know them now. In 2010, that's kind of scary. All right. Visual. If you look side to side, they were auditory because the person is hearing. Maybe they hear their shoes clapping down, you know, whatever. They hear people speaking about the impact of technology on vocational ed. So if they went side to side, they're auditory. If they went down, they're kinesthetic tactile because they're feeling it. They actually feel it. And of course, this has been used in a lot of counseling situations. The counselor will, if the counselor speaks to you in your language, they can sit and actually watch your eye movements and know that they should be either talking to you visually, using visual verbs, auditory verbs, or kinesthetic verbs, which brings us to the next piece. So what did you find out about your partner? Oh, I'm sorry. If they look straight ahead, that means they didn't have to process the information. It would be like asking your social security number, and it'd be 402-78252. And I wouldn't have to look anywhere, think anywhere. I would just be straight ahead. Or maybe it's a... Yeah. do you have a problem there, Joe? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, if it's a dead stare, it means that the brain did not have to process any information. That's all it means. Doesn't mean there's no bad or good or right or wrong or anything to any of this. You are what you are because that is your style. The key is, as teachers, we've got to meet the styles of those students in the room. And let me tell you what, it came out that vocational students were the most. I usually tell this at the end. Vocational students are highly kinesthetic. Is it any surprise? Okay? And in the next one, they're highly concrete global. And in the next one, they're highly sensing perceivers. And when we finish all three of these, you can look and see. We did this with 50 vocational students in Ashtabula, Ohio, and out of 50, they came out this. Highly kinesthetic, concrete global sensing perceivers. And guess what school's like? School's like this. Highly auditory, okay? It's sequential, it's abstract sequential, and it is sensing judging. And, you know, you've got vocational folks sitting there, and I know I did this myself when I was in high school. That is me. That's my exact style. I'm a kinesthetic, concrete, global, sensing, perceiving. And I was listening to an auditory teacher teach, and tell in an abstract, sequential, orderly way, sitting there going crazy because I had to be moving and couldn't until I went to my vocational classes, which is why I'm in vocational ed, okay? And sensing, judging is a highly interactive, sound, excitement, challenge, very exciting, you know, want to be involved in things. And look what schools are. It's kind of scary. All right. So what did you find out about your partner? Could you tell? Just general comments.
So if everybody, if people look not up, but up, so upside.
Any direction. Any direction, as long as the eyes are moving in an upward movement. Yes?
What if you get different results from the face-to-face eye movement
Than the inventory? It's likely because this inventory has a lot of reliability and validity. We have the studies on this because it has been done. It's based on the research and the studies. So I would go with the inventory more than I would go with this eye movement chart. But a lot of people, I just give this so we can kind of do a different activity to see how the neurolinguistics works, you know, in terms of this. But I would definitely go with the inventory. And not everything is laid in stone either.
What if the inventory results are a real surprise?
Let me tell you, they were a surprise to me. What?
I would have said I knew myself,
Okay.
and the results of the inventory were very surprising. What does that mean?
You didn't know you didn't know. No, it could be very surprising because maybe you've never taken a test to kind of think about it. And if you go back and read, that's one thing, I'm glad you pointed that out. I have information in there on every one of these concrete globals and everything. Go back in there and later on and read the research, and it tells you more information if you're an abstract global or sequential or kinesthetic, tactile, or visual. And it gives you all that information. And go back and read and think about what you do.
That's okay, Brenda. I did his for him. So,
Oh, you did? Well, that could have a bearing on the inventory, definitely.
Not processing be a sign of a need for a great deal of therapy?
Not processing, meaning you stare at a lot?
No, I'm not, just in general, I'm asking, I'm not doing it about any person or unnamed person.
That's a good question. That's a good question. And Jim was saying, if someone is not processing, they're looking and staring straight ahead a lot, and you got a lot of dots in the center, do they need therapy and counseling? So, just so everybody can hear that. I have no clue what the answer to that is. Okay. A little fun with that. All right, the next thing, and the last piece that has to do with kinesthetic tactile, and that is called verb rotation. And folks, this is really important in the classroom. And it's something that you may not be aware of. So, since we don't have time to do this activity that I usually do with this, what I would say to you is audio tape yourself teaching sometime, and then listen to it, and copy down the verbs that you hear yourself saying. Okay? That could be one. You might have, here's what you might. I'm going to give you an example of a kinesthetic, tactile, auditory, visual teacher, and listen to the verbs that I'm using. So audio tape yourself sometime, and then just you listen and pick out the verbs, and you can tell if you're kinesthetic, tactile, auditory, visual by the verbs that you use. And kids will be listening based on the verbs that you use. So here's a kinesthetic teacher. Kinesthetic teacher walks into the room. Okay, students, get out your science books. We're going to rip right into this today. Hammer this information out right down to the nail. highly kinesthetic. Okay, another teacher walks in. This is a tactile teacher. Tactile teachers, remembering what they are. Okay, is everyone comfortable? We're going to work in cooperative learning groups today, and we're going to be sharing a lot of experiences and personal stories. And so I have provided at your cooperative learning group some highlighting pens, and so you can highlight or underline anything that's important to you. All right, we're ready to begin. Auditory teacher comes in. All right, kids, listen up. Listen up. Everybody listening. Got your antennas on? Everybody listening. When everybody's listening, then we'll be able to start. Okay, now a visual teacher walks in. Visual teacher. All right, students, look up here. Everybody looking. When everybody's looking, I'll start. I don't see everybody's eyes yet. Yes, yes, yes. You must be looking at me. Okay. Visual teacher. Okay. How does that affect kids? Know the verbs that you use. And you frequently will use your dominant preference when you're speaking and talking or giving instruction or doing any kind of a conversation piece, because that is your style. Now what we have to do, and that's the end of KTAV, is we have to rotate our verbs, kinesthetic, tactile, auditory, visual, in order to meet the needs of all of the needs of the kids in the room. I keep saying kids, students, till my age. Now let's look at your second profile, which is your organizational conceptual style. And we'll take a look at that by looking at, watch my time. Actually, we won't be looking at this because the bulb just blew out. Got another bulb.
Got to back up in the corner.
Back up in the corner. Okay. Let me, while she's working on that, thank you very much. My eyes definitely went up. Like, what is this? Okay. Let's take a look at the little hash mark that you made. How many people were abstract concrete? How many people were abstract concrete? Did any of you tie? In other words, you know, some of your numbers were very close together. Okay, if your numbers were within 1 point, you know, difference, then you still should count it, which means that you just work in more styles than that. So if your highest number was A or C, you put that out to the side. That so you've either got an A or a C there now, right? Then if your highest number was G or S, whichever one that was, you put that up there. Now you look at the two hash marks, and for example, it may say abstract, global, or abstract sequential, or so forth and so on. So now, can you look at that and find out what your style? Thank you. I'll see if I can not blow that one out. Here's what we mean by this. If we'll take a look at this quadrant, and you're probably familiar with this, okay? We want to look at the concrete and abstract, so you can kind of think about what you are here. Concrete to abstract. This means, and you're looking down at the information at the bottom of your sheet on this, if you'd like to. Concrete people prefer to work with real things. I'm going to use the example of an apple. If I were teaching a lesson, let's say I was an elementary teacher, and I was teaching a lesson using apples, or middle school, or it could be high school, okay? And you would have the real thing here. You would have an apple, a real apple. And then you'd say, kids, we're going to use, this is an apple, and here are some things we're going to be doing with this today. And let's say you didn't have a real apple, and you're getting closer to the abstract. Let's say you only had a picture of an apple, okay? Then let's say you had an abstract picture of an apple, an abstract apple. You're getting more to the abstract. Let's say you only had the word apple written on the board. That'll even be more abstract to kids. So as you move in this direction from the real object, real sounds, real color, real experiences, concrete things that kids need, to the abstract where they prefer words and symbols and numbers. So you're moving in this way. This is the way that you perceive things, either concretely or abstractly. Now, this is the way you organize things. You're either sequential or you're global. And that's when you had to make those two choices on that sheet. Let me give you an example of sequential. This will be sequential. I'm getting ready to make an Italian cream cake, okay? One of my favorite cakes to make. I read the recipe. I get all the ingredients out and line them up on the counter in order that they are to be used in the recipe. Highly sequential. Okay. A global person might just go to the refrigerator trying to decide what they're going to have for dinner. Open up the refrigerator, stand there, and then all of a sudden it jumps out at them. This is what I think I'll have tonight. Very global. Okay, so there's a difference between those two people. Now, what I ask you to do is to take a look at what style you were, okay, and the quadrants. So let me put this up here that has the quadrants on it and see if you can identify with one of the quadrants. What you're moving in a clockwise direction. So how many abstract sequentials do I have? Abstract sequential? Okay, 2. How many abstract globals do I have? Ooh, a lot of abstract globals. Look at the hands. Concrete global. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Concrete global. And concrete sequential. Now, folks, you may be one concrete sequential. You may be more than one of these. And all that means, and I'm saying this in all 3 profiles, if your numbers are close together, that just means that you can work in many styles. That's good. You're very well-rounded. You can work in many styles. That's what that means. Okay? If you're really skewed toward one style, you know, it's really high number in one and real low numbers in the other, you got to do a lot of working on the others to get it, incorporated. Okay, so if you're an abstract sequential, these are the kinds of things that you like to do. Okay, the 4 quadrants. You like to read and discuss, compute numbers sequentially, analyze verbally, and do things in your head. Now, my husband does things in his head. The trouble is he doesn't tell me what they are. And I'm supposed to read his mind sometimes. And he's thinking in his head, but it doesn't come out. So I got to think, it's okay. He's just abstract sequential. He'll be all right. Abstract global. They discuss ideas and concepts with patterns, association, play with words, create metaphors. Your concrete global people, move this over here, are trial and error, real world and random. This is career and vocational ed. A career in technical ed, excuse me. And trial and error, real world and random, discovery method. Lots of this happens in the world of vocational education. Concrete sequential, part by part, step by step, procedure by procedure. You ever bought, like one of those desks that you have to put together yourself? Yeah, you either did it concrete globally, trial, random, real world, just see if this works and this works, or you got it out and you read it. Step 1, this is the screws for this part. Step 2, and you laid all the parts out and assembled it before you assembled the desk. And other people just picked it up and started putting it together. Just cram the screws in, see if it works. Shove this block in, shove this shelf in, see if it all works. Okay. What I want you to do is turn to the person next to you and tell them one activity that you would teach in class, one strategy. One instructional strategy for each of those quadrants. And just do that with about 2 or 3 people in your group. You can kind of turn where you're turned alike. If you're an abstract sequential, using this as an example, okay? Well, and you have this in your page. What is that, Sheila? I'm sorry. Page 8. What teaching method might you use in one teaching method for each quadrant? Just share that with your folks.
taking a quarter.
Hi, did you get the handouts? We got a new person walked in. Did you get this?
I had seen one before.
Oh, you have? Did you get this?
So,
Are you an educator?
yeah.
Okay, there's your inventory. It has directions in there how to take it.
Okay.
So you can take it. And if you even like, if you're a real web user and you like to use the web, you can go to this website, that's our website, and you can take it online too. You can click and drag instead of peel and stick. Yeah. I was going to remind people of that. How'd you come out on yours? On yours inventory. Do you teach here at OSU?
I'm a graduate student.
Oh, you did like I did for 3 years, a graduate student here. Yeah. Highly auditory. No, you're tactile. And auditory. Yeah. And concrete global, CG, and sensing perceiver. Yeah. And you look down there, and you look down here and figure out what that is.
Yeah,
Sure. Did that feel good? I mean, did it seem like it was fitting?
almost.
For the most part.
I'm very surprised the way you organize all the novels.
I got a little surprised on mine too. How are you doing?
Well, I told her I've switched. A few years ago, I was concrete sequential, and now
You
I'm
can
abstract
change.
global.
People ask me that all the time, and you know, you can really change based on your job could change. This could change. You know. So I think some of that you were here and now you're down here.
Yeah,
Well, you're totally the opposite.
I am. Incredible.
Is it? Where's your inventory? Is it real strong, abstract global? 8, yes, and 13. You got it. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, even this.
Or do you think you were that and maybe you weren't?
No.
You really thought
I
you were
think
the
I
other?
was this.
It's interesting. That's real interesting.
So one down here for
People will
audio.
tell me though, and then a lot of people will be the same all the way down. Okay, let's take a minute and could somebody give me an example of an abstract sequential, something you would teach and you would be teaching it abstract sequentially? What would that be? If you were discussing computing, numbers, so forth. This is not when you're supposed to get quiet.
I think you gave them some data
Yes.
and then ask them to do some computations with it, and then what does this mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a perfect example of an abstract sequential type of strategy we use in your teaching. Okay, how about abstract global? For my abstract global people. Yes.
I kind of thought that you might have your students work in groups and generate ideas, not necessarily the full process, but just a brainstorming. It's more of a thinking outside and going a little bit beyond.
Yes. Doing a lot of thinking outside the box, and having in a group so they're globally doing that. Good example. Great. How about our concrete globals? What did you come up with? Something that you'd be working with if you were a concrete global. Yes. Okay. Box of parts and constructing that and see what you can construct. Definitely trial and error, concrete global. Concrete sequentials. What might be something you would be teaching if you were in a concrete sequential way?
Following a recipe.
Sure. Following a recipe. Yeah. Assembling a child's toy. Very carefully. You've done that before. Okay. All right. Now, I did this to get you to see, in career and technical ed, as we work with the students out there, and we have the teachers out in our vocational schools, here they need to work with the second profile, the way they organize and perceive things. Take a look at themselves, how they learn and how they work, and then take a look at the profile of their students. And if I were doing this, I would definitely do just like we did in Ashtabula High. I would give the student inventory. So I'd have this neat little profile of every student in my classroom. And I would know then, how they organize and perceive things and so forth and so on. So this just gives you an idea. If I'm teaching, here I was, okay, go back to my high school example. I was in an abstract sequential school, and I was a concrete global. runs exactly counter. You know, I was told in my high school, you should go to vocational school. And then, you know what that sounded like? You can't cut it in college. And my guidance counselor looked at me and she says, Brenda, you don't need to go to college. You should never, I hope she's listening. Okay. She's dead and gone now. Okay. She said, don't go to college. You'll never make it. You're not college material. You should go to beauty school. You should be a beautician. That's a good vocation for you. And I had this in my head that that's what I should do, because I was in the Future Homemakers of America, because I was in vocational ed, because I loved doing all this stuff. And why? Because here's what we were doing in those classes. We were working with the real world. We were using discovery method, trial and error, in a concrete global way. And here I am, and not that you don't need this piece, because you need all the academics and the abstracts and the sequential. But I'm talking, it's not which one you need, but it's which style that you're learning it in. So I could have been taught math concrete globally, and when I got to Ohio State, I think I would have done a lot better in my statistics classes. I could have been taught English in a concrete global way. These academic people can teach, because here's our vocational folks, right here. And they need to be teaching to the style of that student. No, it's not whether you're smarter because you're this or this or this or this, but it's that you learn and you organize this way. So later on, I entered college. I thought that I should not stay there, so the first semester I ended up on academic probation, because in my head is what my guidance counselor was telling me, so I thought I'd prove her right, except I had this father that said, you will go back and finish or else. And to this day, I do not know what or else is and don't want to know. I did have the nerve to ask him one day, and he said, you know, I'm not really sure. And then went on to get my master's, and then ended up at Ohio State, and so forth and so on. So, you know, you really, all because of a difference in learning styles. It's scary, folks. It gives me cold chills to think about it. But I think, you know, I wasn't really stupid in math, because I had to take research classes here. What did we do, Sheila, a while ago? 85, 86, 87, 88. We started counting all the numbers. I've been there, done that, you know. But this is what I was. But I was fortunate enough to have a professor that sat down and said, here is how you do it. And in the real world, when I went out and actually collected data and applied the statistics, it was clear as a bell. But in the abstract world, it wasn't. So that's why we have to really take a look at the students that we have in terms of the way they organize and perceive things, because we're all different. Okay? Give you a little quick example, because I want to leave time for questions, and finish the personality type. Just a concrete little story about each one of those, a sequential, global, concrete, abstract person in the grocery store. See if you can identify with this. Based on your style, think about this if you've ever been shopping in the grocery store. And I'm sure all of us have had that experience at one time or another. Sequential people, what do? They got their cart. They're ready to go. Okay, what do? Sequentials. They come with a list. And what does the list have on it? In order. Aisle A, aisle B. Yeah, they got a list. They got it in order of the way it is in the grocery store. Sequentials. Anything else sequentials might have with them? What? Coupons. What?
They change the grocery store around and screw you all up.
And then you go in, they move the aisles, and you can't remember because here's your list and the grocery store's changed. Okay? So that's a sequential person. A global person. Now, these people are very dangerous, our globals, in the grocery store. Because global people come in with their shopping carts, and what do? They don't have a list, and they wander through the aisles. You wonder. And what else do global people do?
I think that looks good.
That looks good, I'll take it. Looks good. Yeah. They go back and forth. Yeah, this is a great example. You go through and you say, oh, yeah, I need ice cream. You put the ice cream in, you're driving along, you know, with your car, and it's about 30 minutes later, and all of a sudden there's a trail of ice cream down the aisle. Because now you're over here in the, you know, cereal section, and you've forgotten that you picked up the ice cream first. See? Because you're global. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have the same groceries and you can fix the same menu as the person that was sequential with that orderly list. But it means that that's the way you go about doing things in a random way. Okay. They're dangerous people.
Some people are auditory. The ice cream talks to them.
I never use this with the sensory style. The ice cream says, buy me, buy me, buy me.
By name, it's calling me.
Here I am, Jim. Help me, I need ice cream. Feed me. Okay, concrete people, you know what you do. Concrete people have to, what? Touch it. What's the old commercial used to be, don't squeeze the Charmin? Yeah, and you just got to squeeze it. And then you look at the vegetables, and what do? You pick them up, you pinch them, you pinch them, you feel of them, you smell of them, this type of thing. You got to touch it, feel it, see it. You're the people that eat those freebies in the grocery store. Yeah. Some of you are smiling. It's like, yeah, that's me. I've been there before. Okay. All the samples that, go around, you've got to see, touch, smell. Music and sound and colors will keep you in the grocery store longer. Psychology of sales. It'll keep you in the department store longer, too. I think that's why they have the piano players in Nordstrom's. The real piano players, and you stay there, you waltz around listening. It's dangerous. Abstract people who go to the grocery store. Okay, abstracts, what do? You carry with you a calculator. You look at what? Ounces. Yeah, you read nutritional labels. You compare quantity and the quantity of it and what's the best buy and that type of thing. Okay, my example of a grocery store. I'm going to take a look and finish up with personality styles. Now, to me, again, this is Myers-Briggs, but it's based on partly on the Hershey-Bates instrument, and you'll find all of that information and research on page 10. But let's take a look and find out how many sensing judges do I have in the room. That's my gold people. The color was gold on there. How many sensing judging? Let's take a look and see what you are. That little last row. Look down and see what you are. And we're looking at this very last column, the personality type or temperament style. Sensing judging people are very, value authority. They're very organized, they're predictable, and they're extremely useful. A intuitive feeling, over to look at the intuitive feeling person, they value integrity, they really want to build relationships. They'll do anything to keep peace and harmony, emotional issues, and those types of things, and content issues, they really want to keep the peace. These are your peacekeepers in any organization. All right, the intuitive thinkers. Here are your people who value competence, intellectual capacities, reasoning. They will rationalize things to death until they figure it out. These are your real reasoners. And then the sensing perceivers. They are the people that are going to jump off the bridge without looking to see how far it is down. They value action. Now, I can say that because I'm a sensing perceiver. They value action, excitement, style, competition, and immediate response. Emotional death is waiting. If you have to wait in line at the post office, if you have to wait in line at McDonald's, if you have to wait in line, emotional death for an orange person or a sensing judger. Sensing perceiver. Now, in order to have time to do this, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to go back into your pairs, AB, and then we'll finish up with this, and then we'll take questions. Go back into your AB pairs, and you're going to do a little role play. The person is going to tell you what their number one personality preference is. Is their preference sensing feeling, sensing judging, whatever? You're going to look down at your card so that you reviewed what they are. So, for example, if you're dealing with a intuitive feeler, these are the people that value integrity, relationships, personal and emotional content issues. And you're going to talk to them to try to convince them of something in their style. Because that's what you're going to do when you deal with your colleagues and teachers deal with students and so forth and so on. If you know the person's style and you can talk in their style, it helps a lot. So here's what I'd like for you to do. I'd like for you to ask, this is what I want you to do, the person A First of all, I want you to be the interviewer and person B the interviewee. Now, here's what you're interviewing them about. You're asking a business partner to take students for job shadowing or an internship. Maybe it's in a school-to-work program. Okay. So explain the importance of job shadowing and internship in their personality type. Just look down at the card, decide what you're going to say. Knows what time it was. About 5. Yeah, I'll just give them a real. I won't even let them have time to do the opposite one. That's why I need to make it like this for me. I get so involved. Yeah. That doesn't help me. I'll just go on. Okay, well, let's stop here because of time. And I did forget time. Sometime I forget time. And I was looking at the clock, and it's 25 after. So I just a real quick minute. Could you tell me, maybe Sheila, and you worked with Wes, of course. I know Wes. And what did you find out? What was his personality type?
Well, his personality type was a sensing judger, which values authority, organization, predictability, usefulness. So I tried to convince him that this job shadowing experience would be very useful for the students, that it would help prepare them for the workplace, it would give them a sense of stability, that they'll have a better idea of what's expected of them.
Great. And Wes, how did you think about that? Did she meet your learning style preference? I mean, your personality?
Yes, she did, because she appealed to the usefulness of it, the practicality.
And that made you be more likely to.
I immediately took the student.
You took the student immediately, absolutely. Well, I want you to know that I've really enjoyed working with you for the last hour and 25 minutes. And let's open it up for questions. I want to tell you that I have used these at the university level with my student teachers before they went out to do their internship as a first-year teacher, or student teachers when they went out to do their student teaching. I gave it to the cooperating teacher, the university professor, and then the student teacher, and to build that relationship, that triangular relationship. You can use it in career counseling. I mean, there's so many uses for this that, like I said, I've told you about what we did in Ashtabula, Ohio, and we've used it all over the United States. If you're interested, the number to order these kaleidoscopes, and that's what they're called, the kaleidoscope profile, is on the very back of your inventory. It's an 800 number out of California office. So also, they're free to take on the web. So if in that direction page inside the folder, our web address is down there. You can go to the web and click on Learning Styles Profile, like the folks did that were doing the webcast today, and you can take the teacher, the workplace, and the grades 3 through 6 and 7 through 12 for free. So you might want to share that with a colleague. And thank you for letting me be here today. Any questions?
Yes, we have 3 minutes left for questions. Anybody want to add a comment, ask a question, share a story, sing a song? Jim?
Sorry to come in late. I wonder how some of these learning styles would apply to distance education.
Oh, that's a good.
Done any thinking about that with the,
We have our courses. We have 3 or 4 courses that are online now. We have a multiple intelligence course. It's a 3-hour graduate course online. And in building that multiple intelligence courses, we have incorporated activities to meet different styles because, you know, this is one of the things that we feel that we're very much an expert at. And since we know how people learn, then we know how to design the course so that all people can learn. So I can only answer that in terms of the distance education related to online learning. That's a great question, though, because it really has a lot to do with distance learning will be effective for some people and not effective for others based on their style, Jim. It's a good question. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Sorry I didn't leave too much time for questions, but...
Well, Brenda, how can we get in touch with you? By the materials that you've brought and what's on the website right now?
Everything
If
is...
people have additional questions?
Yeah, Sheila, everything is on the handout, my email, just an email away in Pennsylvania, and 800 number for my office is there. And again, you know, any questions or email me or whatever, and thanks for letting me be here today. I've enjoyed it. Thanks.
Well, thank you as well. And for those of you joining us via satellite, please look on our website to see what kinds of professional development opportunities we'll be offering in the next few months. Our website address, if you don't have it already, is www.ncc. And look there for not only upcoming professional development opportunities, but for everything else that the National Dissemination Center has to offer. Thanks so much for joining us today, and have a good day.